What is up, everybody? We are live here in a Minneapolis brewery. Shout out to Bricksworth, who had some of the best wings and pizza that I've had in ages. And we're sitting here with Andrew from the We Are RIZIN Podcast. Good to meet you, man. Cheers.
Oh, yes. Cheers.
Isha. I mean, we've met before. We've done content together before, but not in person. So first of all, how is your long weekend going, and how are you enjoying Minneapolis? The shithole, as you said via text.
That's what I've been told that it is, but it's nice. Well, this part is nice. There were some other areas that were pretty sus. I'm here for Anime Minneapolis. I don't know how to exactly pronounce it. Anime Minneapolis. So that's why I came up here. It was at the Hyatt. You know, the Hyatt Regency?
Yeah. So, yeah, Japanese MMA fan, obviously an anime fan as well.
Not really.
Just kidding.
Not really. Like,
everyone in my chat who's a Japanese MMA fan, for the most part, has watched at least a few animes, so that's why I say that. And myself included. I mean, I think I have every Death Note series.
That counts, yeah, that's anime. I've seen Attack on Titan as well.
I actually never finished Attack on Titan.
It's not good. You should probably edit that out, because you're gonna get like weirdo Attack on Titan people are gonna be like, they are like the K-pop.
Yeah, you know what? Sword Art Online sucks too. So come at me. But to kind of segue from that, I did see recently that an anime coming out in Japan used fight footage and training footage, and basically modeled the way that Takeru, the kickboxer out of Japan, has been fighting. Talk a little bit about that, because that was pretty cool, that little video that came out that I saw on Twitter.
That's not the first time. I'm trying to remember, what was it, Tekken? One of the Tekkens, I forget the tag. I'm not a Tekken fan, but I forgot the characters. But they had pro wrestler, MMA fighter Minoru Suzuki come in.
Oh, okay. Well, Lene Hart also does the intros to Tekken.
Okay, so then maybe it was Tekken. And also the games, if you're familiar with the Yakuza games.
Yep.
They're very modeled. The fighting sequences in those are modeled after pro wrestling, MMA.
Okay.
So it's not uncommon for for Japanese video games to actually get the fighters to mocap real fighters to actually do video game combat stuff, because who knows how to throw a punch? Takeru, right? You know, the stuntman might know like how to fall down, but like he may not know how to throw a punch. So yeah, it's not uncommon to see people, Japanese pro wrestlers, MMA fighters get mocap for video games, because it just, yeah, it looks so much, or in this case, an anime, it looks so much better. And also, yeah, Takeru's got a style that's kind of like anime friendly as well. So, it makes sense.
So, speaking of Takeru, it looks like he's a little bit ahead of schedule in his rehab and coming back from that nasty knee injury, obviously taking a beating from my boy Superlek. What do you think is next for him? Because he is under one championship contract, so he's basically in jail. He's basically being held at gunpoint. No, it's not that bad, but let's be honest, we know that one championship's contracts are very restricting and very much like you beat to Chatri's drum, right? So having said all of that, though, what do you think is next realistically? Because like Chatri's not throwing him in jail. Like obviously Takeru, they made him a lot of money. That show in Japan was huge, even though the card, in our opinion, didn't really deliver. It still was a huge attraction. How do you think, and what do you think they do with their asset now moving forward?
The honest answer is I don't know. For all I know, he could be in one jail for the next 3 years and we never see him again.
Don't say that.
But like that's the thing, is that like we never know with one, like who was it that was complaining, who like got like one fight and never fought for them? It was a woman, that female fighter, right? That Dutch kickboxer.
Oh yeah.
Anna something or other. Also Cosmo Alexander. Didn't he retire as well because he destroyed Sage Northcutt, which was not supposed to happen? Yeah, so you just never know if one, like, he might get, if one announces a Tokyo show, then okay, you can kind of start to figure out. I don't know who. I guess they would try to do the rodtang fights.
That's, for me, that's the only fight to make right now. It's that or superlek rematch, but I'd rather see rodtang first, to be honest. And if he beats rodtang, okay, then do the superlek rematch.
I would have almost say that this rodtang match doesn't even matter anymore because what superlek did to him.
Well, what superlek's just doing in general, right?
Yeah. He also has said, But also, the kickboxers always say this. He also said that he is training MMA. He has said that in the past. That can mean anything, though. There was like speculation that when he left K1 that he was going to go to RIZIN MMA. But, you know, take that for what it's worth or whatever.
I think he's just too big of a kickboxing star because, like, you see guys like Yaman, for example, who are extremely famous. Or here's Ren Hiramoto, extremely famous. They cross over into MMA and they still keep that aura to them even if they don't perform. But I feel like Takeru is just a level above them, both in stardom and in like skill-wise, that like the fans would be so much more critical of him failing in MMA than they would these other guys who are just more so like have a cult following of love.
There is a, what do you call it, an alternate timeline where he beats Tenshin at the match, and then he goes on to have a successful boxing career through Top Rank. And I do believe, like, I think the winner of that match would have obviously Tenshin won it, but then obviously I think that there's a alternate time where he does win that match, he becomes a boxer. He doesn't sign of one. Maybe Tenshin signs of one because you can never predict of one. There's no consistency to that promotion, which is kind of good because but it's also kind of bad. Like, you know, we're not getting two stamp fights this year. Listen, you know, I think we were talking off air. It should just be a kickboxing and grappling promotion as far as I'm concerned at this point.
Yeah. And it's crazy to even entertain that because 2 years ago, one championship was arguably #2 to the UFC. I think they had a better roster. They had a deeper roster than Bellator, than PFL, than even KSW at the time. Now, KSW has a better MMA roster than one championship, and it's not even close.
That 1X show is still one of my most favorite MMA shows of all time.
They peaked, man. The 1X show and then their first show on Amazon Prime.
Okay, yeah.
They peaked.
But I think that 1X show was really their, like, true coming. I heard people who never knew about one, like, talking about that show. Oh, and I should wait a second. People who watch UFC but don't watch anything else heard about that show. That's what got them into one championship. Yeah. And that's the same with that, like, same thing with the Amazon Prime, the first one. I have friends who, like, surprise, surprise, didn't even have Amazon Prime at that point, but got Prime, who now use it for, like, buying shit, but got Prime for one championship. Yeah. And now they regret it because there's one show a month and it's garbage. Yeah. Yeah, well, some of those Friday... Actually, no, I'm being overly critical. On paper, they're garbage. Usually, they still deliver. I have to say, though, the Tokyo one was the biggest disappointment. The MMA fights were horrendous in that show. Also, that show, I think that show was cursed the moment Kachi was like, all Japanese fighters suck. There's a reason why there's never been, like, a Japanese, like, champion worldwide. Bro, Shotri roasted all the Japanese fighters in the post-fight press conference.
You know, if you look at the last several years, doesn't matter which discipline, Japanese fighters come into one and they get crushed. And, you know, in order for one championship to truly blow up in Japan and become, you know, 125 million people go crazy, we need the Shohei Ohtani moment, where the best of the best in Japan, K1, Rise, Risen, you know, there's the best in Japan, but when they come to one championship, inevitably most of them lose. And so if you look at the Japanese record, it's a lot of losses in one. So that's the big struggle for us, you know. We're still in the search of Shohei Ohtani. Of course, I think Takeru still can. There's still a lot of potential, but that's the biggest challenge.
So I stayed live on the channel with our boy, Mr. Grant Gregory. Go check out his channel, guys. We literally stayed live for 2 hours after that and just listened and roasted Shotri as Superlek sat next to him, blank face, like, I don't know what you're saying, and thank God I don't know what you're saying. Shotri's going scorched earth on the Japanese fighters here. I also think, yeah, he created some negative, like, aura before that when they had the sign. He had the sign with Takeru. He had Takeru right there, and he basically said with Takeru right there, all Japanese fighters suck. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, and then what happens on the recent Friday fights? They bring in this no-name Japanese guy who I think was like 17-1, 17-2. Don't quote me on that, but like in that like echelon, and he absolutely works Sexton. And no one saw that coming. So that kind of made me smile a bit like, okay, now there's still some Japanese guys who will come into Sexton's world won championships, Muay Thai world, and still dominate.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. You know, listen, I think one can still do some good MMA stuff. The problem is that they want to be the variety show of MMA, and problem is I think of combat sports. But I don't think there's. It's so hard to like just do so much and be good at every.
I don't think any promotion, even the UFC, could pull it off.
No, if RIZIN had. I think RIZIN's kickboxing stuff, like, it bores me sometimes, like when they have like the 2 regional guys from like Nagoya.
See, that's funny. I'm the opposite. I know you're rolling. You know I love that shit, dude. The last 2 delivered. We had 2 awesome fights. One was a knockout, and one was just an absolute 3-round war. So like they're entertaining. Even though I don't know anything about them, they're entertaining.
I've watched enough of the regional ones where it's like those are the exceptions, not the rules.
Oh, okay.
I've seen some terrible Who's Cup versus Rise or what is it, NJKFF or whatever that thing is. Yeah, no, like though, like it's a little bit better now because now they're like doing like Rise versus K1, like kind of like mid-tier fighters. That stuff is cool. I like that.
Well, they might not do it anymore because Rise was a little pissed off about some of the judging.
Yeah, well, that's why we're gonna do it. It's gonna happen in RIZIN because RIZIN can get anything done.
Oh man! All right. Well, we'll keep this live podcast, a little bit brief, but we will use this opportunity to tease that we're going to be doing some more collaboration shows moving forward, especially with Super RIZIN.3, the remainder of that card being announced at RIZIN.47. Let's talk a little bit about that right now. RIZIN.47 coming up soon, followed by Super RIZIN.3. We had the Super RIZIN.3 press conference just a few days ago.
来いよお前。ここはまだ戦う場所ではありませんので。ほらビッコラ。土下座しろ。こういう選手やりましょう。落ち着いてください。もっと来いもっと来い。なんやお前ビッコラ。もっと来い。お前が来いよ。お前が近づくやろ。お前が来いよビッコラ。来い早く。早く来い。ちょっとどけ。ちょっとどけラメック。ラメック来いよ。すいません行かなしてください。俺 MMA やらないよだったら来い早く黙って来いよ。お前が来いよ。だから来いお前が来る。お前が来いよこら。できないの？お前こいつ押さえとるどいてみほな行くかどいて。じゃあ一回待って行かなして本当にここさせて。一回来させて一回大丈夫。何や。絶対手出さないように。手出さないように。止めなさい。まだ戦う舞台ではありません。明日は選手を止めてください。素手で殴り合うのはおかしい。それはダメです。リングで戦わなければなりません。両者引き離してください。MMA やっても
highlights from that, and what are some of the fights that you are excited that were announced? I know the whole card isn't announced yet, but some bangers, maybe not on paper, but based on like, again, the celebrity aspect and just the lead up to some of these fights.
You talking about Super RIZIN.3 or is it
Super RIZIN.3? Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is that the Mikuru Ren Hiromoto fight is probably the biggest MMA match you can make in Japan right now. And we had a discussion on the RIZIN FF Discord. What could be the match that's bigger than that after that? And we can't think of one, which is kind of the problem with the Ren Mikuru is that this should have been done like 2 or 3 years ago when Mikuru was good and Ren was kind of like, I don't want to say when he was still shit talking but losing. There was still something compelling about, you know, just like a virgin MMA, just into MMA Ren Hiromoto.
Well, and like the Japanese bad boy in kickboxing too, right? Like someone who goes against the grain of like what is, I don't want to say culturally acceptable, but what is culturally the norm in Japan.
Yeah. I think the fight, I worry that the fight, see, the problem when we have fighters who supposedly hate each other, you either get like, I'm trying to think of like a good example. Holloway and Gaethje didn't really hate each other. But like,
they didn't hate each other, no, they had too much respect for each other.
Yeah. Maybe that's what they should have. Maybe they should have more respect because a lot of fights where there's like, oh, they hate each other, they wind up just, you know, Sean Strickland is always guilty of this. He'll be like, I want to kill this guy, and it's like, oh, counter jab for 5 rounds, and it's like, I worry that that Ren is just gonna try to like grapple Mikaru or vice versa, and that's not gonna be fun because they both are not good grapplers at all.
No, well, that's why I think it's going to be predominantly striking. Do I think like Ren's going to get like one trip takedown? Sure. I think Mikuru will get back up to his feet. I think this is mostly going to be a kickboxing style fight, though.
Well, also, I don't think that Mikuru is even really I think Mikuru is going to retire after this, regardless.
Really?
Breaking down is the most popular MMA thing in Japan right now.
And for those who don't know what breaking down is.
Yes. That's Mikuru's promotion where they have 1 minute, 1 round fights, and they will get people that are like gangsters, yakuza, people that are like out of jail. But the thing that works about it, like, is that these are people who cannot get like regular jobs in Japanese society because they got tattoos, they got criminal records, and when they go on Breaking Down, win or lose, like I remember there was one fighter who got enough money, sponsorship money, and popularity that he opened up his own successful restaurant in Osaka.
Wow. That's crazy.
Enson Inoue said this. Enson Inoue on...
who has no affiliation with the Yakuza.
Exactly. On Yamato Damashi, his podcast with Jim Ozeki, he said that he got recognized more after he was on Breaking Down than he did his entire career in Pride.
Holy shit.
He said that when he went to one of the RIZIN shows to corner one of his fighters, he got more people wanting to take pictures of him. Wow. And they were like, oh, you're Breaking Down fighter.
So how many shows have they done so far?
Breaking Down?
Yeah.
Oh, geez, I don't know. There's no like schedule to them, really.
Just whenever they want?
It's kind of, yeah. Like, you can find clips on YouTube, Instagram. They have like one big show like every few months that you have to buy through like Mikuru's own website. It's a weird thing, but apparently it makes money. I think it's like the equivalent of maybe $40 US, I think.
$40?
But I never bought it because I don't know, if you ever tried to buy anything through Japan with a foreign credit card, it doesn't work, ever.
So I was lucky to be able to buy, not the last RIZIN show, but the one before when they had some of their issues streaming in 4K to North America. So I didn't have any issues buying it through RIZIN, was it TV?
Oh, RIZIN TV, sorry.
RIZIN TV. I had no issues there, but Jay Wolf actually told me, he's like, just be prepared and tell your chat that you might have to call your bank and be like, no, please let this go through. Like, this is...
Well, I tried to buy, what was that? Was it Knockdown? I tried to buy, Knockdown, I think it was, because I think it was Brian McGrath.
I had to call my bank once for Pancrase. Now that I think about it, one of my Pancrase...
Oh, okay. Tyget or whatever it is.
Yeah, that didn't go through.
So I tried to buy a Knockdown show because Brian McGrath was on it, and he did an interview with us. I was like, oh, I'll buy the show. And a lot of times the Japanese shows will have this thing where like you can like, oh, who are you buying to see? And I was like, oh, I was going to do that. And it won't accept my card because it says, this is not a Japanese credit card. Please find another method of paying.
Wow. The Asakura brothers, Japan top team is actually buzzing as well. There were a few guys from, or a guy and a gal from the last Deep show, Deep Impact Tokyo round 3, as well as Deep Jules 45. Both of them got wins. Both of them look good. So that's cool to see.
Yeah, Japanese top team is.
It's relatively new, right? It's only like a year old.
So, well, technically, So the original name for the team was Triforce Asakusa, and I believe if I'm correct about what happened, is that Mikuru, Asakura's, and their manager apparently bought out that name, and so they sold it independently. and then they've got a whole new space to rename it Japan Top Team.
Oh, okay.
There was some weird thing, but yeah, the whole thing about Japan Top Team is that they are trying to emulate like the American style of training. So the way they train in Japan is so like.
Because you've been there, you've trained in a couple gyms in Japan, right?
So a lot of people in Japan, a lot of fighters have 9-to-5 jobs. So there are some dojos that don't even have like afternoon classes. They just have like evening classes for the fighters, and then like the fighters will train with like I guess civilians. I was about to say the regular folk, the peasants,
the plebeians.
Yeah. And also the other thing is that a lot of Japanese dojos have discouraged people. If you join a dojo, you're there for life. You don't go anywhere else. But what Japan Top Team has done is they have hooked their fighters up with also going to like the UFC gym in Vegas.
Yeah, well, because Kai trains at a syndicate in the States. When he comes to Vegas, he goes to the UFC PI, which is telling of where he will probably fight soon. Let's just say that. But it's either UFC PI or syndicate. And I just actually published a video a few days ago, so guys go check it out, on how Vince Morales ended up on that RIZIN New Year's Eve card. And it was because he was Kai Asakura's lead training partner and furthermore lead sparring partner at syndicate. And so Kai brought him to Japan, and he was actually supposed to fight on a deep show. But then Kai was like, why do you want to fight on a deep show? Why don't I just get you on a New Year's Eve show? And he's like, yeah, like, let's do it. So yeah, so Kai, to kind of go full circle, he's been involved in training in the States, especially when he's preparing for wrestlers.
Yeah. I'm talking about, it was Hiroya from Japan Top Team who trained at the UFC PI, I believe.
It's just funny because like he's never making the UFC. He looked good in his last fight, but let's be honest. Now he's what, 500?
Yeah. He might be even 500.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
Like,
why they're giving him Takeru next. They're like, oh, maybe if this gotta be easy with him, so he could be 7-6 or whatever. Yeah. With the Vince Morales thing was interesting because they brought him over, they paid for all of his travel, they paid for all of his housing, and I thought he was a permanent coach there, but apparently he was not. He was just brought in for Kai's match. I forget who the fuck did Kai fight?
Oh, it was Archuleta.
Oh, it was Archuleta. Yeah. Archuleta, yeah. And yeah, that's why. And so that's the other thing is that Japan Top Team is bringing like the top people in America.
Yeah, they brought a syndicate wrestling coach too.
Oh yeah, that guy. And yeah, the problem is that a lot of these Japanese gyms have been so insular, and maybe it worked 10, 15 years ago, but now with like all these young Japanese fighters who want to make it who want to go to UFC because the Japanese economy sucks now, and also many other reasons. Yeah, you're just training with other Japanese people are not gonna. It's not gonna work. You need a varied training system to now make it in MMA. Well, I should say internationally as an MMA fighter.
All right, I got a few more things here. We'll fire through them. Road to UFC. How did you like the opening to season 3 here? 4 separate fight cards. Any talent coming from out east that we should keep our eyes on?
I guess Miki Matono, because there was no way she was going to beat her opponent. I forgot her opponent who didn't make weight by like 6 pounds. It was like something absurd. No, like this is now like Miki Matono's. I forgot who won in her bracket and the other Chinese lady, right? I think. Yeah. So I think at least Miki Matono now has a better chance than had her original opponent had actually made weight. I think Miki Matono would have been demolished by her. Fang something, right? Fang whatever. Let's see. I think all the Japanese fighters lost. I think the Korean guys, yeah, all the Korean. Well, here's the thing. I'll say this. Tetsuya Saika, who took on the Korean guy, they all have like similar names. It's like Kwan Bong. Oh god, whatever. Anyway, Tetsuya Saika is a guy whose all of his fights but one have ended in either him getting knocked out or getting knocked out. I wish there was a pipeline for like people who lose in the road to UFC, like they fight like the other loser or something.
Yeah, that would be cool actually.
And like the loser, like that winner would then can get like a UFC fight night or something. I don't know.
Or even like a contender series.
Yeah. Okay. So something like that, because Saika, I wrote a whole like top 10 Japanese fighters you should look forward to, and he's one of them because he throws murderous punches. But the problem is that he does it at the detriment of his own defense, but that's why he's great. And so, yeah, he's probably like my standout for like, because like the fight ended exactly how a psycho fight goes. Either he knocks out, and he knocked down the guy. I think he knocked down the guy at least once or twice. And so, yeah, it ended with him getting knocked out. Or I was going to be that, or he knocks out the other guy. I think the other people, Reynolds, the other Japanese guy, Shohei Noze did not do unfortunately well. So here's the thing. The other great thing is that, so RIZIN loves, if you are a budding fighter, the best way to get on RIZIN is two ways: be Mikuru Kai's friends, / be on Breaking Down, or be eliminated from Road to UFC. That's literally the best pipeline to get into RIZIN at this point. You don't need anything else besides one of those two.
Or be buddy with Scott Croker. He'll get you in as well.
That too as well, yeah.
And that goes to my last question here. RIZIN.47. I'll get your prediction for the main event, but any other fights that you want to just quickly talk about on that card coming up
when
here?
When you say Scott Croker, you'd be like, oh, what do you think of the Friday night at the tech show? I was like, that wasn't available like anywhere to see. So RIZIN, or as Sergio Pettis would say, RIZIN.47.
Oh. Well, I mean, why is there confusion now when like it literally in the promos, RIZIN, Super RIZIN.3. Like, why? You like Rampage is the worst for it now too. I'm like, you should know by now, bro.
I think it's funny because I interviewed Sergio and I was like not gonna.
Great interview, by the way, guys. Go check it out. I will link it right here.
I wasn't even gonna like say the title of the RIZIN or whatever. I was gonna see what he says first. I said RIZIN at the beginning though, and then like 10 minutes later he says RIZIN, and I was just like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna call it RIZIN on the show while I'm here. I don't know why. It's not like you can't hear how it's pronounced. Probably you can even ask Shingo. I don't know why. It's just is that a Wisconsin thing? Maybe in the Wisconsin.
It might be a Wisconsin thing, or like it just might be like a hick United States thing, because you got like Rampage in Tennessee and Pettis in Wisconsin, and they can't pronounce it properly.
I think that's actually, it sucks that it's not for a title, but Pettis, he says that like he wasn't given enough time to like make weight. I get that. He hasn't done flyweight in like probably since his UFC days, right?
Yeah, because he's just been doing 135. Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. If he wins though, like there's gotta be like a title fight down the line.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I normally, even though Sergio won the first one, I just never discount Kawaguchi. He's is he 2-2 in rematches? Oh, actually, no. He's never lost a rematch as far as I know.
And he's still in his prime, though he's had a long career. Though like his UFC tenure was a long time ago now, respectively. He's still beating the best of the best that RIZIN offers and the best of the best that Bellator offered. I mean, he pretty much is. The only thing he's missing in his trophy cabinet is a UFC title.
Yeah. He's
got the Shudo titles. He's got everything. He's got Bellator. He's got RIZIN. Like. He doesn't need deep.
Did you see what Drake Riggs, when it was asked like about the UFC thing and Kawaguchi and all that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's gonna be in the UFC before he retires.
I don't think so. It's just not. UFC doesn't care about that stuff anymore. Like this was maybe 10 years ago.
Man, I disagree. Kaya Sakura is coming over to the UFC. You're gonna tell me that like Horiguchi's not gonna be part of that like package that's coming over, especially with more and more Japanese fighters in the UFC now gaining even North American interest? I don't know, man.
Well, in his interview of
American top team connection as well.
Even in his interview with Drake, he said that like UFC says that they're not interested in him, and I believe what the UFC product is. There's still a disrespect to flyweights.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing is that Pantoja is a training partner of his.
No, but he wants to fight Pantoja. That's what's so cool about it.
They all say that now, and then.
No, they don't all say that though. I feel like most of the time they say the opposite. I don't want to fight my training partner, but if it happens, then we'll cross that road when we get there.
I also think he was kind of joking when he said that. I feel like
I've seen it in multiple interviews though, so I'm starting to
believe. What does Pantoja think? Let's ask him.
Who cares what he thinks?
He's the champion.
He's the champion. He's making money. Whatever.
Other matches. Let's see. There's a very interesting heavyweight match We always love the big boy matches.
Yes, I love the big boy matches.
Versus, I can't pronounce his name, but it's like Kowal. He's not a KSW fighter, apparently, no.
And he's not a 1-0 fighter from LFA.
Yeah, so, you know, there was some misconception that he was, like, maybe involved with KSW, but no, he's undefeated, 3-0. You know, that's one of those fights where it's like, so, you know, the great thing about RIZIN, like, when it started, they would find these random Eastern European guys like Jiri, guys like Carl Albrechtsen, and then obviously we see where they went on to. So like I'm hoping we're getting to that back to that era of RIZIN where they're just finding like these great Eastern European fighters who can actually like make it to like the big time.
Yeah, or even guys who like quote unquote graduate from Octagon, don't go to FEN or KSW, and RIZIN comes calling, because Octagon is actually producing some really good talent. Octagon, they even have like their own like Ultimate Fighter type show where they've been producing young talent as well. A lot of the German talent is going through Octagon right now, and I feel like that's a good opportunity for RIZIN to also tap that market.
Yeah, you know, I think Robert Saldick made the worst mistake of his entire life. You know, if he had just waited a few more months, listen, I get the UFC lowballed him, but if he had just waited, I think Octagon could have maybe made a pull for him after his KSW run.
Yeah, dude, that's sad because, yeah, the UFC lowballed him, but if anything, Shotru just gave him too much money, and now he's stuck there.
Yeah. Other fights. Bay Noah's getting a punishment fight.
Oh, poor guy. But you know what? You know what? Well deserved. His last fight, not good. So not good at all.
If you saw the announcement, the press conference for that announcement, they were reading negative tweets that people were writing live during that fight against Benoit.
People don't understand. RIZIN is more based than UFC.
The great thing is that VTR, that's going to be like a major part of that VTR. It's going to just show like all the tweets, you know.
Dude, they don't even hold back in their like confessionals. Like the interviewers will sometimes ask them like, "Oh, you're eating this food. Are you gonna be too fat for like your freaking weigh-ins and shit like that?" Like, could you imagine if they did that like in UFC unbedded and shit like that?
No, like that. That's why the RIZIN confessions is so much better, like embedded, unplugged, whatever the fuck it's
Dude,
called.
I don't even understand half of it, and I watch it.
Yeah, no.
Because most of it doesn't even have subtitles.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, that's a great thing. Is that I just love like the guy who does them. I think is Sato. His name is Daisuke Sato. And like, yeah, he'll just like, I don't know if he's an actual interviewer. That's why he's asking those questions. He's not like a Nina whatever or a John Morgan, or he's not one of those media trained guys. So that's why I think that's why it works. 47. Who else do we got? I'm gonna cheat. Am I allowed to cheat?
Yes, please. Honestly, if I had internet in this bar, I would have had my computer up in front of us.
Oh yeah, Kleber and Juan, the match that I never gave. I don't really care about because Juan should not be getting such a high-level fight after losing the title, missing weight. Yeah.
No, but you know why? It's because he made weight an hour before the show, and Saki Kabar was like, respect. If anything, we set you up for failure there, and you made weight. So
in that case, like, you're going up against Kleber, who's like, what is it, like a 95% or 90% like finish rate by submission?
I actually think this will be fun, especially from like you're a jiu-jitsu guy. There's going to be a lot of scrambles in this one because like Juan is a solid grappler, but not an offensive grappler. He's more that like American-based wrestling, but good off his back and like not being just pinned down there, right? Like he's hard to keep on his back. So I think this one will be fun.
If he fights like the way that he did against Kai, that's probably his best way to like beat.
Well, and he'll be healthy this time, right? Because he was sick, right? He had like a stomach flu. That's why he had the weight complication.
Yeah, I mean they always have stomach flus apparently when they miss weight. There's that. Spike Carlisle versus Kim Kyung Po.
You know what's funny? Though Spike Carlisle recently, you know, hasn't been that great. I always root for him. I don't know what it is. I always root for him.
Same thing. There's something inherently likable about him.
Even though his style is not a fun style.
Oh, I think it's a fun style. I think he's he's wild. I think, you know what he reminds me of?
His last two fights haven't been fun. I'll say that.
Yeah, the last two fights weren't. Yeah, I don't know if, like what it is that the last fights is not doing well, but, excuse me, I think like the AJ McKee fight that he had in Bellator was great.
That was good.
His first Bellator fight as well, I forgot against the guy, was also great as well. Plus also, he's technically adjacent Japanese since he'll probably come out as an anime character. So they'll definitely be cheering him over the Korean guy. And there was one other fight that was potentially interesting. Kazuki Tokudome versus Sho Patrick Usami, which is funny because Tokudome is a grappler and Usami is a striker. So, and also Tokudome hasn't fought. The last time he fought was against Satoshi in like 2018.
Oh, geez.
So I'm not so sure of the basis for why this fight is happening. I'm also surprised that there's only like 9 or 10 fights. Did you notice that? There's only 9.
I know. Like, there's going to be more fights on Super RIZIN.3, I think, than 47.
Well, you know, I'm always critical of like how long RIZIN. I'm critical of when like a show in Nagoya has like 15 fights and it's like
2 intermissions.
2 intermissions in like 8 hours, and it's like that's not how you do a show in Nagoya. Do it for 47. Do it for Super New Year's. No, not your Nagoya.
Do it at Tokyo Dome. Do it at Saitama, but not here.
Not fucking Nagoya or Aichi.
Well, let's be honest. Just no event with a cage.
That's fair. Yeah. And actually, there should be no event.
I know, but we don't have time for that.
No, we don't.
Oh man. Well, hey, this was awesome. You guys are going to be doing your full breakdown of RIZIN.47 and Super RIZIN.3. So guys, go check out the We Are RIZIN podcast on YouTube. And yeah, this was fun, man. Like, we didn't really have an outline or anything. We just literally pressed record, fired up the phone mics. We're a couple beers in, and we just wanted to talk some mixed martial arts and RIZIN. So, fucking rights, man. It was awesome to meet you.
Appreciate it, Isha. Thank you so much.
And yeah, we'll jump on the channel soon, and we'll do some more collaborations. Because the last one we did with you and Jay Krish, it was awesome, man. And we had a lot of like international people watch it as well. A lot of Japanese people comment and watching it and just saying that they loved us in North America, in the Midwest, no less, talk about this awesome promotion, this sport. So more collaborations to come. Thank you guys for watching. Again, go subscribe to Andrew and the We Are RIZIN podcast, and we will see you on the next one.